You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Sidar Oak. So what do you do professionally, Sidar?
Hey, Rob. Thank you very much for inviting to be guest to start with. I am an independent consultant that sells services to Fortune 500 companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google about strategic and transformation projects. So I help them basically to go from a point A to point B, and I make projects and I tell them like how they can reach to those situation that is in the point B, right? So this is how I earn my life. I'm totally independent. I'm not tied to one company. And now recently I have also started a coaching business. So I help also others to become independent consultants and earn their life and increase their income. So I'm mainly in the tech space. I serve mainly the tech customers.
Oh, so you're more
Yeah,
about doing benefits towards the kind of a company, not really a person's overall well-being, in fact.
yeah. Well, I help in my coaching business to persons, to people. Of course, companies are part of it because they also want to increase the value of
Yeah, everybody's all
their
about that paper, all about that.
exact exactly exactly. So that's how I help them. I help also companies in that sense in my coaching business too. But in my coaching business, I focus on the individuals and their value, how they can increase their value, and a result of that, capturing that value. And as you know already, we cannot really increase our earnings without increasing our value, right? So
Exactly.
we can only capture a part of it. So we have, if we want to double our earnings, we have to like triple, quadruple our value to just to be able to capture part of it, so that our earnings could also increase.
Which do you find more appealing to you? Do you find it that you prefer helping them economic wise or helping them more physical wise and spiritually?
Well, like fortunately and unfortunately, two goes hand in hand, right? You cannot really ignore one from the other. If I just say that I only deal with them professionally and just with their earnings and finances, that would be a lie, because if the person has something in their mindset that's blocking them for higher levels of income, if they don't want it, if they are not willing to put the work in, then yeah, I mean, you can want it all you want. You will just get all the information, you will soak them in and do nothing with it, right? I'm sure you have a lot of people around you who fits into this criteria, right? Like I call them information soakers, but they just read and read and read and just do nothing about it, or they even get a coach sometimes, but it is disconnected from their personality, so they don't take really the action. It goes the other way around as well.
I think a lot of people feel like they're just not important too. A lot of people look at the time like, oh, that's not me. I don't have the ability to become that. And I think that's where they lose the sense of reality there, is when they say they can't become something. Because in reality, you can if you put your mind to it. You know, you can be persistent enough. And as long as you have the drive and the willing effort to put into something, you'll be able to accomplish it.
Yeah, indeed. And if those people would look at their own lives, they will see a lot of things that they have achieved. And you and I would watch with awe and you would say, oh, those are great things. But when it comes to realizing their own goals, there's sort of an imposter syndrome. That's one of the most common themes that I see, that people want to be perfectionists and they want everything to be right at the gate, super
They're displaying an
cool.
act. They're displaying
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes things, sometimes it makes it good. I am certainly like, I'm fan of perfectionists in the sense that like we have to be perfectionists. We have to try to get there, but the practical point of view is also important, because perfect is the enemy of good, right? So the we need to just get the necessary baby steps. We have to do it better, but still we should not lose the perfectionist mindset saying that, okay, I'm going to be better tomorrow than I was today.
Do you think a lot of people just see like the common norm of how many failures? Everyone always chalks up to the failures as being the main influencer. They don't look at that 0.1% that might actually make it.
Yeah, and actually, I will give you a surprising figure. The people who are making it are not 1%. Otherwise, the world collapse. I mean, everybody you see around, the shops that are open, the people who are working day in and day out, they are achieving something every day, right? Like,
Yeah, you're alive. That's an accomplishment.
yeah, that's in itself an accomplishment. You didn't die today. You have made some money. You have made a way, whatever that is, to survive this day as well. And who knows what is the story behind it? It doesn't have to be like Elon Musk's story where you have spent like 80 hours, 100 hours per week to get there. But you have your accomplishments in life. Otherwise, like the world's population would be falling to 1%, right? So we don't, but your point is very clear and very correct. We don't want to see the positive sides, and we don't want to see what we have achieved so far, and we focus on, I'm lacking this. I cannot, maybe they're right as well. They might be lacking that. But what is the step you are taking, right?
I think a lot of people take the realization of that they're too afraid to fail. And I say that's where you have to look, you have to look at things you did wrong and structure yourself off those. You have to realize I needed to do this differently and then better yourself that way. A lot of people look at, well, someone's going to do it. I'm not going to be that guy. You'll never know until you take that shot. You think Neil Armstrong was sitting there like, I'm not going to be the first man to walk on the moon, allegedly. But, whatever you want to say, like he took the time, he took the effort, took the amount of, and he became the first man to step on the moon. That's, if he sat at home, was like, I'm not going to be an astronaut. There's no point in me joining the space program. I'm going to be like Jim 9 to 5. You're lacking the creative passion that makes human people, an amazing race. And first of all, an amazing species.
Yeah, and you are making a very important point here, Robbie. We tend to see the successes as overnight successes, like tomorrow I will wake up and I will have $1 million in my bank account type of successes, because that's really in the media and around us all of the time. Like the success that's promoted are always portrayed without the failures. The failures are part of success. They are not standalone.
They're character building. Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
and
a lot of people look at like participation trophies, like there's no winning or losing. They take that at what builds out of character, which is true in some aspects. I do believe that there should be a clear winner and loser, but I don't think they should dwell on it in the negative that you lost the game. You should structure yourself off. What do I need to do to better myself next time? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly like your Neil Armstrong example, right? Like he walked on the moon, but we have to remember that he's standing on the shoulders of hundreds of years of failed research, failed people, his own exercises, right? Like we as a society, we as people, we build on failures. There is no success without a failure.
Yeah, we're our only true roadblock because we see things as being comfortable and so normal to us that we don't want to go out of our comfort zone. When I think the kind of where you should be focusing towards is, why do I have a comfort zone? Obviously, it's so nice to sit inside your room and watch Netflix all day, but at the same time, you're not experiencing the world. You don't want to be 90 years old, someone wheels your ass up to a window and you're staring out saying, I made it through life. Like, you want to say you fucking lived a life. Like, you had something so passionate and driven that got you going and motivated. Where do you see the lack of that nowadays? Like, I'm from Ocean City, Maryland, United States. You're from Belgium. I mean, not from Belgium, but you're from Turkey, but you live in Belgium.
Yeah.
So, like, how different is it there than you think? Like, looking at things that get displayed in the media about America.
Yeah, like I'm of course, yeah, I'm Belgian now, naturalized Belgian, but I come from Turkey, and actually the most difficult part of Turkey, the southeast of it, well, the Middle East, basically. And the people who don't know Turkey, I can describe it like this. I mean, um, the part where I'm coming from is that you put your finger in the bloodiest, horrible part with the war and everything and the poverty. I'm from that part, like Syria is close by. We have a lot of refugees. We have relatives in Syria whose lives are shattered. And it has always been like that. I mean, it is not like the last 5 years, 10 years. In Middle East, we have always been, let's say, underprivileged, to be politically most correct.
Would you feel like that was a giant influence in what you're doing now? The
It
fact that
is,
like you were in an area that had like was seen as like being outspoken or doing something out of the normal that would be confined to your spot and realize like you're worth nothing or something like that. Do you feel like no, you took that and went a whole different route with it?
uh, it is like you are touching something that's spot on. Is it affects your life in so many ways, your way of looking at life, and looking at small matters as well as big matters in life, and it reshapes you completely. For instance, like when I look at the injustices in my society, like in Belgium, I see a common tendency with other underprivileged backgrounds, like people of color or people or women, for that sense. Or, for example, women are really very underprivileged when it comes to tech leadership and tech jobs. Um, but it is one way to look at it. Okay, I cannot get into those positions or those brackets because I'm a woman or because I'm from Middle East.
You're already setting boundaries on what you can and can't accomplish in life, which is hard.
Exactly. And the sad part is that it is true. It is true. You are not going to go as easy because you are a woman. There, you will face a lot of more hurdles than men do. That's a fact of life. The same goes for being a colored person whatsoever. But what are you going to do about it? You are not going to be able to change it by just wishing and snapping your fingers. So you have to do something about it. You have to take steps. And if you think that there is a bubble around those leadership roles or high income earning, it is your job to break that bubble, to get into it.
You don't the only ceiling you have in life is the one you set for yourself. You can constantly break through and go up towards the sky if you want to.
Yeah, and that's where this this concept of mindset comes into play, right? So yeah, you cannot coach people who have in this type of mindset. You cannot just say that, okay, I'm going to give you the tips to become triple X earner, and then you go on the side, right? All these mindsets, you have to go through them, and you have to solve them one by one so that you can unlock the next stage for that person. That's what I do in my coaching business when I'm coaching the tech leaders and executives.
Have you found that anybody was too far gone, or do you feel like everyone has a chance to realize what the mistake they're making of just being comfortable and change that? And if they have a drive or if they have a passion, they can pursue it with just a little bit of effort.
This is going to be a little bit like not confrontational, but controversial. But I really don't think that everybody is born with that chance. Like if you are born in the suburbs of India with very lacking access to water, I mean, your priorities are much more different than the mid-level manager who is trying to break into executive roles, right?
Yeah.
So if you are starting like minus 10, minus 20 in life, getting to 50 or 60 is a big achievement. But to say that with a little bit of effort you will get to 100 is wishy-washy, wishful thinking. you will have to work like twice as hard, 3 times as hard. So you will have to put more time, because the being poor is costly, man. Being poor is expensive.
To your health, to your mental and physical well-being, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. I think people, they lack the initiative to try and change their life because they're comfortable. And let me tell you, comfortability is not something you should be settling with. You should be settling to become who you truly want to become. And if you look at so many factors that goes in, yes, it's different. You have to look at all sides of the scenario and everything, but you have to look at, there is something out there you're meant to do. It's not going to be accomplished if you're not taking the drive to do it. If you think someone else is going to keep that answer and take that title from you, or do it because they have more of a drive than you, then you're already losing the battle. People set up invisible roadblocks in their life so many times. It's ridiculous to think that people could be so set. And I'm at fault for doing it too. Just being at set with being alive. You got to understand, you're alive. Make something of that moment. You know, they say that a short life filled with happiness and like discovery is better than a long one that's boring and bland. That's 100% true. But so many people want to live to be 100. I can tell you right now, I don't want to live to be 100. I want to live until I feel so accomplished and I'm so fulfilled with life. I hope it happens, you know, at a decent age. But at the same time, I don't want to just try and live and extend my life out as long as possible if that means sitting inside my room all day and not experiencing the world.
Yeah, all the power to you, man. I mean, I have made a research recently, and a lot of people, when I say that I'm a person who coaches people, take people to double or triple their incomes, they think that I'm working with people like very little pay, like this help desk workers who just want to get into the next level, etc. No, actually, most of my clients are from the executive circles or mid-level managers. The comfort zone that you were talking about is exactly the number one thing that blocks them. So the high level of earnings that they already have becomes a curse rather than a blessing for them. And they want to get to the next level, but to get to that next level, they have to take risks. They have to change their mindset. And that means shattering everything that they have been doing till now. And that's risky, man. Imagine all your thoughts and all the things that you have been doing well, and it was earning you a decent living. And now somebody comes and tells you, hey, now we are doing it differently. Of course, your world would shake. And that comfort zone is very, very difficult to break. And it is much more easier to coach a person who has the direct necessity to achieve things. And that's built in.
A lot of people are afraid of the reset button because they're going to lose all their progress. When I say you should look at your progress as something that needs to be reset because you started off on a rocky foundation in the first place. I think so many people are off on a rocky foundation building a life they consider sustainable, when I don't think we should be using the word sustainable in the same sentence as we can justify something for our life.
Yeah, and in the research that we have done, for instance, to support this, we have made a research among hundreds of people of different areas of tech, men and women, and across the different countries. And what we found was fascinating, that a lot of people, like more than 55% of the people, were not happy with their career. That's normal. A lot of people are not happy with their career in tech. But out of those people, 80% of them were happy with their earnings. So what does that mean? That means two things. Okay, the more boring jobs, or the less influential jobs, etc., still pay well for people to be happy, to be okay with their earnings, right? And that's, my friend, the definition of a comfort zone. A lot of people are just putting up with what they have. They are not trying to get into the next level, and they think that it is going to make them lose what they have. But it's not necessarily the case. But when you have a comfortable living with no necessity to go to the next level, you will not do anything. So you have to have that necessity. And this necessity can be created by multiple things. You can create it by money. You can say that, okay, I don't have any money, so I have to receive some earnings. You can say that, okay, my career has been stagnating. I am not making any progress. Or you can say that my job is going to be taken by robots in the next 3 to 5 years, 10 years. I have to do something difficult. Yeah, and you have to do something. You have to have that necessity. Look, for instance, when I was in Turkey, I mean, my biggest necessity to get a college education was to get out there. Otherwise, I could be killed. I could end up in jail somehow. So it is a very strong necessity for me to get an education and get an education in computers, that I can be relieved from the boundaries. Why didn't I choose something like law, for instance, or like being a doctor, etc.? Because going with computers out of the country is easier. And that's the necessity of trying to get out has made me grow. Same for the compulsory military duty has come, and I am a person who is against all kind of killing activities. So I didn't want to do the compulsory military service, and I had to get out of the country. So that's my necessity. And when I find that necessity, I own it like a champ.
Yeah, you can't, like I said, chalk it up to, you can be life's bitch or you can make life your bitch. You know what I mean? You can choose to take the reins if you want to choose to take the reins. I think a lot of people look at the fact that things are too hard. Things are too, I'm making enough money. I'm comfortable. I'm surviving. But you complain about your job every single day. I'm at fault for doing it too. If you want to make a change and you must not hate it that much if you love being in it. And, I enjoy my job, but it's not something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It's just able to keep me sustained until I get to what I want. I don't plan on stopping my dreams and then just staying comfortable in this position for the rest of my life. I want to find better outlets and better things where I feel like I can affect more people, whether it's in a good way, hopefully in a good way. I don't want to hurt anybody. I want everyone to understand we're all people here working together. And we're structured off something that is really, 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 really shady. Okay. Now, you being from a different country than me, like in America, everyone here is two-faced. But I'm like, I always say that. I'm like, I wish people weren't two-faced. But now I'm starting to come to the realization that it's a safety factor. It's a safety switch. We choose to display a character to people because being real is scary to everyone. I think that's where we went wrong.
Yeah, indeed. And I would even say, like, it's not even two faces. It's like a little bit of Game of Thrones style, like with many faces, right? So you have one at your work that you wear. You have another one in your podcast. You have one another against your relationship, etc. It's not. I don't find it necessarily a bad thing, but not being aware of this is much more detrimental to your self-being. It's detrimental to your health. It's detrimental to your productivity. And not doing something about that, like, how do you make your preferred self to come out in each and every of those situations? Not thinking about this is a problem.
To be real as possible. The same person I talk about in my podcast or same person I'm talking to that you're talking to right now, this is the real me. People ask me, can I cuss? Is it filtered? Is it whatever? I've had people come on the show. I've had people display a character, then halfway through, they start displaying who they really are. And I try telling them, like, I'm erasing the beginning parts where you weren't being honest with me. You were giving me some type of role. And there was always like a pushback to it. They were like, I'm not supposed to show this side of me. I'm like, it's like, we're looking at like our deep, dark, like secrets or our deep, dark interests, like our ones we like to do with the door shut and locked and everything like that on our computer late at night, like that dirty, dirty monster. Oh, I can't. I'm like, stop looking at yourself as different in a bad way. Look at yourself as different in a good way. There's a reason why you're different. People are unique, but we're all acting one and the same. I think that only works when we're trying to help each other out in scenarios. We need to all understand that we're all just people. But when you start trying to structure yourself off someone else's life and try and be like someone else, you should not have those types of things. You should become who you want to become.
Yeah, indeed, and that's the great advice is so simple that it's very hard to do, and I I completely understand the people who are struggling to be themselves, because in the society, it is mainly the Western society. Even though we are celebrating individualistic cultures, we are not really behind the scenes supporting that. We want people to be in a molded shape that is safe for us, that is not going to shake our beliefs and not hurt us. But at the end of the day, if it is who we are, and if you think lying is much more difficult than being yourself, you have already chosen your way. So all kudos to you that you have recognized yourself, and that's what I'm also trying to do with my business, with my coaching as well, to see, like, I always start with why. For instance, I want to earn more money. Why do you want to earn more money? Is it because you cannot do some certain things? Is it because it's necessary for you because you are taking care of kids, etc.? And then is it because of a sheer show of your success? Because money is a meter of success as well, right? So why? Before you nail down why, it is super difficult to get to the what and what the next steps will be. Because like if you want to travel the world, I mean, you don't need to double your income to travel the world. You can do it with your savings. You can do it with nothing.
One
A
of
lot
my
of people
buddies,
are doing that.
literally every 2 weeks he travels somewhere. Like I sent him a text and he was like, "Oh, I'm in Jordan right now. I can't really hang out, dude." I'm like, "How'd you get to Jordan? You were just in Ocean City last week." Like, dude, you don't understand how much like cheap travel is. Like to go around the world. He's showing me pictures of going to Greece. He just goes there for like a week, then comes back, works 2 weeks, goes back out. I'm like, "Dude, you just spend your paychecks on this?" I'm like, "How do you survive?" He's like, "Bro," he goes, you can travel and live a little bit. Like you don't have to live off rappers or anything like that. Like you can literally survive." I was like, damn, it gave me a whole idea. Like my goals in life are to now experience podcasting with other people around the world, not just over a type of platform like this, but in real person, being able to see the person myself and hear their story and watch their eyes light up when they're telling me it.
Yeah, and that would be a great project, because you can only do so much in a podcast or a digital environment. You will experience a lot more different kind of emotions when you are having a video conversation, or more person-to-person conversation and feelings. And bringing that out is going to completely be a different experience. But what you are doing already is great. Um, and I'm sure a lot of people are learning a lot, and you must be getting good feedback already.
I'm probably giving good information and bad information. I do tend to rant a lot about Bigfoot. I need to realize it's an inner conflict in my own life. But I find the best way to understand things is also with humor. No one wants to be speeched at or feel like they're reading a motivational poster. Like with the way we've been talking, somebody's going to hear that and be like, "Wow, they're so inspiring." And then someone else is going to hear it and be like, "They're just telling me what to do." It's like looking at a motivational one, like the 100% of the shots you don't take, they never get accomplished. Like that is true. But let me tell you one motivational poster that did hit me pretty hard. I sat next to it while I was in trouble so many times in class, and it was Yoda saying, "Do or do not, there is no try." I read that. I was like, but I read it like Yoda, obviously. But I heard that. I was like, that has such impact and gravity to it. And I realized I'm learning from experience, listening to older of my podcasts and then listening just to more experiences on and on as I've podcasted with hundreds of people. Now, I'm starting to get a better understanding that we're all focused on the same thing. Like the structure kind of seems like you talk a lot about society in the podcast. I'm like, we're all thinking it. That's why the conversation, it's just a conversation. You can take it wherever you want, but everyone chooses to take it in the how they don't really feel like they're being them true selves anymore. And it's weird because you can only get that after 20 minutes in when they're finally letting down their guard and being comfortable. And then that's where you get the whole factor. You start getting all the problems, the information, and all the things that they're worried about and getting conflicted with about. And you're able to have a real talk, a real sense of connection there. Too many people are just disconnected nowadays. The only thing they can stay connected to is their phone. And it really turned my mind into, I don't know if you've ever heard of this literature play by Algernon. It's called The Importance of Being Earnest.
I haven't heard.
Well, the lady tells in the story goes, I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being good in all time. Like I heard that. I was like, two-faced. That's what people see when they go out. They display this type of sense of righteousness or sense of what's right in the world based on wherever you're from. And they're truly somebody else. Like they'll go and they'll talk about you behind your back. I don't know if that's like that in your country. In my country, it's highly prevalent. And even like students that come from Romania, Bulgaria that I podcasted with, that I've met and connected with, they're like, you were different. I was like, how was I different? They were like, because you actually cared about me. I knew when you asked me how my day was going, it wasn't just something to say to make chit chat. You actually gave a shit. I was like, because I care. I care. I want you to know me for me. I don't want you to know me off, yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. No, I want you to know me. He's Robbie. You have to experience him the way you experience him.
Yeah, to be all fair to you, you really have that a lot more. I lived in US about a year. I worked for Microsoft in Seattle over there, and I had the chance to travel all over the country. And as I said, like Microsoft, Google, Amazon has been my client, so I have traveled to their headquarters as well. I have to agree with you, and this is one of the things that in the European society we criticize a little bit about the US. I mean, like when you ask somebody, okay, how are you doing? Like a sincere question of how are you doing? I want to know how you are doing. Nothing with a hidden agenda, or like I don't want to get energy out of you. And the standard response of the US people is like over exaggerating. Awesome, I'm doing great, etc. And in Europe, we don't do that. We say real things. Like you can literally ask somebody how you are doing, and they can tell you, I'm not doing well. My life is shit. My wife has left me, and I don't know what to do. Just out of a simple, how are you doing? Right? Because that person knows that when you are asking that question, you are genuine about his feelings. You just don't want to hear some generic sentence of how everything is going great, and that's about it. If it is going great, like if you tell that it's going awesome here, people will really think that your life is awesome. It must be awesome.
I think
in the US, I mean, when you say awesome, I'm like, who knows what kind of problems he has, still.
Exactly. I think a lot of people now, they're getting full. Like they're getting like where you hear about a school shooting or something. I don't see that person. Maybe they do have a mental affliction, but at the same time, they're full. Everyone's full of the horse shit that's going on around us that we're doing nothing about. We're willing to complain about it, but we're not willing to change it. The same reason why you could ask someone, hey, how you doing? They're like, I can't talk. I've had a rough day. Okay, I had a long day at work. Okay, I had this, that, bills, these come, and they're complaining about their problems. And I see that, I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Like, we can't just talk about how the sky is beautiful out. You're crippling my emotion and my sense of energy. And they just, the reason why is because they have no other way. They're so full. They have no other way to get it out. They have no one to talk to anymore because everyone's so disconnected from each other's lives anymore. Families don't eat together anymore. So
and
families together.
And it also goes the other way, right? Like, okay, maybe it looks very negative to say that, okay, we are sharing negativity, etc., but we also don't share the positivity either. Like the real positivity that we have in our lives is not an Instagram photo of how our ripped body is, or like a very curvy body that we have in a bikini with 10 times filtered photos. I mean, you want to have real connections, and you don't hear about that. Like when you ask a person, like, how are you doing? Like you don't hear, for example, I am coming from amazing holidays. I have had the time to listen myself with, to connect with myself. No, it is still that catch-all phrase. Awesome, I'm awesome. How about you? I mean,
I think a
yeah,
lot of
and then I will respond the same non-authentic way. Like I will say, I'm fine. Yeah, thank you, and
I think a lot of
that will be the
people
end of it.
I think a lot of people choose, like for me, I'm a fitness freak. Okay. I go to the gym. I have a 6-pack. I go every single day and I don't miss a day. Now that's not something someone should go, well, good for you, man. Like that's awesome. You do that. No, don't say that, because the whole reason is I try and highlight to people, you can make change if you want to make change, but you don't have to. And I don't put, like on my Instagram, I put up 6-pack photos, but I also put up real life photos, and I explain to them what's going on. I tell people, follow real bodybuilders like on Instagram, the real ones, not the ones that are all popular and you have to show the shredded 6-pack. Because if you look at all the real bodybuilders, they'll show you what's up. They'll show you the 6-pack, and then 10 minutes later when the 6-pack's gone. I have a 6-pack, and it's literally only there when I wake up and just after I work out. The rest of the time, I consume a bottle of water, gone. Water weight immediately goes away. It's
Yeah, and
people
that's
don't realize that you're not going to have that forever. That's them at that moment. You know, it's all about persistence, pursuit, and trying to find what you're going to be truly happy about. That's the big picture, and that's the grand scheme of things. But you also have to look at, it's about 60% lighting, 20% nutrition, and 20% effort. You know what I mean? That's all it
yeah.
is. The fact the gym lights will point down on you to gleam up the 6-pack, to make it analyze those. You have to try and work with it. You have to find the correct pose that shows the best things. I try and tell people this, and they're like, oh, it's just not me. I can't do it. I'm just going to sit at home. I'm like, go out there. If you want to make your life better, you have the tools to do it, but I can't force you. I can't drive your car for you. You have the keys to your life. You got to go. Okay. I can point you in a direction, but honestly, don't listen to me. Don't listen. Like I'm being honest right now. Don't listen to me on anything I say unless you feel like that's what you should be doing. I'm not forcing anybody to change. I don't want people to, I don't want people to go like listen to what I say to a strict T. Take everything I said and throw it out the window. I've talked to people and talked them off ledges before. I'm just like, look, man, I can tell you what to do, but you're going to do what you want to do. You're the only person that controls every step you take and every decision you make. But you choose to let other people try and control you and shape your mind to what you think you should be doing. I tell people, throw all my stuff out the window. I'm not smart at all. I'm not educated, but I've been experiencing more and more thoughts of the world where I believe knowledge truly lies in other people's experiences and thoughts.
And dude, there is a lot, like we are living at an age of explosion in information, explosion in advices. Look on the internet, there is advice everywhere. It says everything. Like in all sides of arguments, you will find somebody advising that. Somebody would say do low carb diet, somebody would say high carb diet, somebody says connect with your inner self, somebody says these are wishy-washy things, look for the practical sides, etc. Therefore, I don't blame the people who are ignorant on the advice or they are taking the actions. Of course, this is what will happen if you would put a sudden light to a rabbit in front of the road. He's going to freeze, right? He's going to not want to do anything. That's the nature's way of telling you that you are overwhelmed with those advices, overwhelmed with the emotions, and you have to stop and you have to start digesting it. What we have to do, instead of pushing people those advices, is that, okay, here is what I have done for myself, and here is how I got these results. Your mileage may vary, and I can help you during your trip. But if you don't want to do that, it's your call.
You have the option to change your life. I think a lot of people see that they're comfortable like we keep saying, they're comfortable where they're at. We're unique for a reason. We have interests, we have passions. The fact that you're willing to motivate people to get them going, and I'm willing to experience more and more just for my own selfish needs of trying
Yeah.
to understand more. I consider it selfish that I have to, you know, get you in a podcast to be able to talk to you. I'm more than happy to talk to people on the street. I find that conversation is the key to knowledge in my mind. Some people aren't going to believe that, and that's okay. You know, you have things that work for you. The reason why you can't follow someone else's diet and someone else's workout is because it's not meant for you. There are different factors that apply. You have to take that same outlook that everyone understands. People aren't the same when it comes to factors of life or whatever, but also the fact you have to look at is expand that into your life. Realize you can't be doing the same thing as someone else and feel accomplished. Sometimes
Yeah, exactly. So it is more than like access. We don't have a problem of accessing to advice. I mean, we can, like the biggest problem now is setting the correct filter for those advices, right? So what kind of advice do you think should reach you, should touch you, and make you move? That's the filter you can only set up for yourself. So for example, for me, I always valued the advice of the people who have walked a certain way of life that I want to be as well, or who have had stories and who have learned from those people, not a person who has read a book and can recite the book on the 14th page. It was written that you have to do this, etc. Who gives that credibility to the author? Like, did he do that? Is he coming from there? Who gives that credibility to you? Are you quoting rightly? Are you interpreting it well, etc.? You can only give advice. Well, you can always give advice, but my personal filter for all those advices that are like raining on me is, okay, what is the best actionable one for me?
do you think people are going to be more, I guess, this mindset of thinking in the world later in the future? Or do you think people are going to be, something's going to have to wake them up?
Um, like, can you expand on that? What do you mean
So, like, do
by?
you think people are just going to stay comfortable and stay what we're doing now, where we're kind of going a little bit downhill? Or do you have a little bit of hope that people are going to wake up? Hopefully, it's not going to take something like, I always say, like, people come together when a terroristic attack happens. I'm hoping something doesn't affect their lives in a dramatic way that causes them to change. I hope they come upon this realization themselves. Do you think they'll have?
Uh-huh.
Do you think that they'll discover it themselves, or will it take such a heavy impact to them?
I see. Well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm an incurable optimist in a lot of matters. But for this one, I have to say that like the data and how the society is responding is going the other way. We are not anymore responding the outrageous activities, even the one terror that you just mentioned. We are not responding them the way that we used to respond them 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Now, like, one shooting is just okay, it's one of the many shootings happening. One bad day, etc., okay, we are having ton of them anyway. We are always getting more and more, and we are more overloaded. We have more problems suddenly in our lives, and it is the effect of the rabbit again, right? So it paralyzes us when we cannot do anything anymore. So I'm not that optimistic that with increasing amount of information and access to information, on that front, I don't think that it's a good thing to assume that everything is going to be great without any intervention. So as people who would like to change the world for the better, we have to recognize this fact. We have to recognize that we have failed to get people to action
Would you
and do
say?
something about it.
Would you say your hopes for the future are good, or your hopes for the future are kind of a little bit weary just because of where, like you're saying, statistical evidence, people are kind of showing that they're not going to be open without a drastic change.
I'm optimistic about the future. Like we have, as human beings, we have always found a way. We have always been improving, no matter what the other people would say. Look at the history, look at the data. We have always been better off. You know, there has been no other time that poverty was this low. There has been no other time that the food was abundant, etc., and there were no so many epidemic diseases, etc. By all the parameters, if you look, we are better off for the last 100 years or so. But this also comes with a tax, and that tax is inactivity, and we are becoming more like the robots in the Matrix rather than leaders and shakers, right? So it is becoming much, much more harder to become a second Facebook, right? So look at, for example, the years between 2005 and 2010. A lot of the social networks have popped up in that period, and a lot of millionaires, billionaires has happened during that period. The next 5 years, not so much. I mean, there has been a recession and hits and etc. So I am looking optimistically. We will, as a society, it will average it out. But like, is it a good thing? Debatable.
I think you got to look at Rocky Balboa said it best in that movie Rocky. He goes, it's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. That's all it is. Humans have an amazing ability to endure. We can endure a severe amount, but the ability to endure and stop and let us hold it down is not something we need to focus on. We need to look at getting past that roadblock and keep moving forward. You know what I mean? You have to look past any problem in your life and see if it can't be moved, if it can't get out of the way, you can go around it just like water. Bruce Lee was quoted saying, you know, you have to flow like water around a rock. You know, he was taking it up for your problems. You have to realize that it's something in your path, but you have to choose if it's going to stop you there or if you're going to keep, or if you're going to find a way around it, or if you're going to break through it. You have to make that life decision yourself. It's something internally. You can't just, I'm so, it hurts me a little bit to see people that lack drive or motivation to really do anything. And I'm not a super motivational guy, but I just know people can aspire to do great things if they just see that in themselves. And sometimes it is highlighted by factors that they grew up with, environments they were surrounded by where they felt like they are nothing. And I really like people to know, like, hey, you are something to somebody out there, whether you believe it or not. You know what I mean? There's one person out there that likes listening to what you're saying, you know, even though there might be a million haters. The fact is, you're still affecting one person out there.
Yeah, and this lack of motivation that's happening, as the motivators or coaches or consultants, whatever you would like to call, like influencers, we have to take the responsibility at that. We cannot just say, people are not motivated anymore, or people, they just lose motivation and they don't do anything about it. No, it is also like communication is two ways. It's 50% your fault at least that they are not motivated. So the only part that you can get better at is your 50%. You cannot really change them in a day and make them more motivated person, right? You can make your messaging clearer, more concise, and more actionable, so the other person can do his or her part and do something with it. So we can only say that, okay, I'm going to be a better communicator. I'm going to change the world by one person at a time. I'm going to reach as far and beyond of my capabilities, that I will be an example to the people who are lacking that motivation now. And we have evidence it works when that happens, right? Like all the those people we have been looking up, they have been coming from not so privileged beginnings like even we are, and they made it happen. So it works. It will happen, and it will motivate the others. I'm sure like you have also some icon figures that like you take an example of, and when they start doing something, it really resonates with you, and there are some others it just doesn't click.
Sometimes you can take anything and turn it into something deep. I saw a butterfly flying across a highway and it just missed a car, and I was having a rough week, and I was like, man, that's us just floating through life, barely getting hit by that car, not even realizing we could have just been squashed. Now I decided to take a deep like experience from that, but that can be seen with anything. But I also could have saw that butterfly get hit by a car and be like, that's life. That's all life is. I think it's all about the experience and what someone comes to in a realization, that moment, that thing that judges it all, where you're like, holy shit, like that's what the meaning means. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so we need to indeed like analyze those moments and see how you can see it, and you are able to come to that realization, but not why the other people cannot do that, and help them rather than just blaming them. Okay, they are lacking motivation, or they are not doing the steps, etc. Right? So we have to bring the people to that understanding and that level, so that they are sure that they are able to change things. And it is getting harder, my friend. It's getting every day much harder, not easier. Being able to communicate with a person in China now is much easier. You send a WeChat or WhatsApp, whatever. But reaching out to the hearts of those people are much harder. And we have to analyze why it has been like this. And as I said, that like this information overload to me is one of the biggest culprits. I mean, the other day I was looking for on Amazon. I was looking for there was a fly on me, and I had these nets because I'm catching the flies and I'm leaving them out from home. And but I was not able to catch them anymore. I said, okay, I call it quits. I'm going to get a fly sweater, right? So I have literally, I'm not kidding you, I searched for an hour. I read the reviews of different fly sweaters. There are like telescopic ones, there are like plastic ones, etc. Like type. Unbelievable. For what? A fly sweater. Like it is basically what like a book can do. I have gone on the internet and spent one of my precious hours that I could do very well for the world. I just read reviews and I said, and I did that without even noticing. And I like to think that I am a person who is aware of this information overload. So that's the kind of world we are living in. Okay, it's getting much harder to touch people's lives, to touch people's hearts, because there's a lot of information, and it's like a candy, right? When we receive a lot of information, when we receive now abundance of food, it is much easier for us to just say, okay, it's my survival instinct, I'm going to eat more food. Is it better for myself? No.
I think the example you're talking about, like looking at your phone and then wasting an hour on some stupid thing that's completely mindless, at least it doesn't have really any matter in your life or what you want to be doing. I chalk up to the same thing. Everyone does that on a daily basis. But the fact that you're able to understand that ridiculous notion of doing that and then realize that's a problem. A lot of people don't see it as a problem. I mean, my buddy gave me the best advice I've ever experienced in my entire life. And that is keep your bank card in your car. I'm like, why? He goes, because trust me, I know what you're doing at 2:00 in the morning on Amazon, shopping for glow in the dark stuff to put in your toilet so you don't have to turn the lights on to go to the bathroom. I put some dumb stuff in my cart. But then I go and I hit check out. Next thing I know, I'm like, man, I got a bidet in here. I got all this wonderful glow in the dark. The next thing I look, it's like, please enter your card information. I'm like, it's in my car. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm not going out to my. I'll save it for the morning. I wake up. I'm like, what the hell was I doing?
So you see, you have that awareness, and your friend has helped you to gain that awareness, and we need to also help other people to reach that awareness, and even for ourselves, of course. But this, if we just sit back and say that, okay, those people are just not aware and they don't care, it is a little bit of easily quitting on people, don't you think? So in my opinion, I mean, we have to analyze, we have to look at with an analytic point of view and sociologic point of view, and see how we can get through it, because it's also like, it happened to you a lot as well, because it happened to me. I'm very, very sure that you have procrastinated hours by searching for how not to procrastinate, right?
Yeah. It's so ironic.
So that's the thing. And one of the most effective ways that I have found for myself and for my clients as well is what I have just talked. It is creating the necessity. It's also what Brandon Burchard talks about, right? So imagine from my life story, if they would take me tomorrow to army of prison, you can be sure, dude, that it will motivate me a hell of a lot to try to find a job tonight.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to search for fly sweaters, definitely. I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to find that damn job outside. Right?
Yeah,
that's the necessity. And every time that I'm going to search for stupid stuff on internet, it can be even like stupid information or self-development. It can be even something that might remotely be useful. That's, if it's not on my trajectory, it is throwing me away from my necessity.
I always get kind of flack in my house, like, oh, you've been up 3 days podcasting, you haven't slept. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why? I'm like, because there's so much to learn. There's so many experiences and stories to hear. And it's something I'm passionate about, where I'm willing to work with time zones with other people, whether you're from Belgium, whether you're from, Australia, whether you're like, it's not, people hear that and they go, well, isn't it kind of late for you? I'm like, no, it's never late to understand and just be able to talk to someone. It's never like that. I always try and bring that realness into it.
Yeah, and you could have done the otherwise. I mean, you could have said, okay, I'm going to sleep now, or I'm going to search something on the internet to how to make a better podcast, how to increase the reach of my podcast, blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly you end up in a month, 2 months, a year, and you have no podcast episodes up and running. You have all the nicest gears around the house. Everything is bought. You have read all the books. You are doing everything by the book, but you don't have a podcast to promote or do anything about it. And this behavior is much more prevalent in today's society than it used to be like 30, 40 years ago. And this is because of this information overload. And people are having less necessity. It's not a problem anymore in our Western society, at least in most countries, to not be able to put food on the table for your kids, right? It used to be not so long ago. And that is, nobody can argue that in ways it's a good thing, of course, but in many ways we have not been adapted to that transformation, that fast, dizzying pace of information rain on us. We have our brains are not adapted to that. We are in the wild. We are searching for every different kind of information. We are a soaker for information.
Yeah,
because
a lot of people
you
being like sponges. I'm like, we're constantly sponges.
Of course, but it's sponges of what? Sponges of wrong thing. Like I have a 3-year-old now. He speaks 2 languages fluently. Like he speaks Turkish with me and Flemish with his mom. And like I have heard also around me, like the kids come to 10 years of age here and they speak 3 languages fluently, like all of them. I mean, it is, if you come to think of it, it's incredible. I have a friend who has recently moved from Turkey to Germany, and about a year and a half later, um, his son started the kindergarten, and my friend has been going consistently to the German course, right? And his son starts the kindergarten, and in 3 months he's fluent.
I try my
And
best when hold on. I try my best when these students come down here because they know English, but it's not the best, obviously, compared to like me speaking. But
yeah,
I go and I try and learn their language, like write down 10 words, and they go, "What?" I'm like, I want to learn. They're like, "What do you mean? You want to learn Romanian?" I want to learn Romanian, Bulgarian, and I do know how to say the basic necessities like hi, hello, how are you doing? Are you okay?
uh-huh.
And the whole reason I did that was because they're coming here and they're doing the hardest amount. I can take the 5% of the 95% that they're spending on trying to make us comfortable. I can spend that 5% to meet them. I can at least do that. And at my work, they choose to give them nicknames and these types of things. And I'm like, no, tell me how to say your name correctly and tell me if I say it wrong. I want to make sure I get it right because I want to know you for you and I want to treat you just like I would like to be treated if I went to a different country.
Yeah, and kudos to you, and that what makes you an empathetic communicator. That makes you ahead of 90% of the people, and that will help you, maybe not immediately tomorrow, maybe not the day after, but the amount of help that it will bring to you in the course of your life is exponential. It is like being able to think in in place of other people, there, see where they are coming from, is the essence of sales.
Yeah.
That's what you do in sales. You get into their mind, you try to create a win-win situation, and you demonstrate that's the way to go. And what you are doing is no different than that. And it is a superpower to be able to understand the other party and see where they are coming from, what are their struggles, what are their stories, right?
Yeah. It's all about learning. And I think like I always tell them like, cause they end up getting burned out from working 2 jobs, not eating enough, not sleeping, partying, doing all this stuff that they're trying to experience America. And all they're doing is confined to working all the time just to try and live. I'm like, when you go back home, I know you're not happy with America right now and you're not happy with the job and everything, but I want you to remember that that was this place, not me. I want you to remember me differently. And they all say, yeah, we will. Trust me. You were someone that was different. And I was like, I'm glad that I could be that for you. Only reason is you got to truly care. I heard so many people at my work talk trash on this one Romanian kid who I'm trying to get on my podcast. He's a little bit what you would call out of the norm, but I like it because I sense where it came from. Like I dived into the world of psychology, which was it was good and bad only because now I feel like I'm psychoanalyzing everybody and I don't like doing that. But, talking to him, like he offers drinks that he'll be drinking a coffee and then he'll just hand it to you. Would you like a sip? I'm like, no, 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 no. And everyone's like, he's so weird. Like he's a freak. I'm like, no, I see the other side of it. So I sat him down outside and we're just talking. I was like, I'd like to get you on my podcast. He goes, you know what, man? Here he goes, you want some coffee? And he goes to hand me it. I'm like, I know why you do that. And he goes, why so? I'm like, you're very open with all your belongings. I'm guessing you came from somewhere that didn't have a lot and you probably didn't have a lot in your home. I'm guessing you have a lot of siblings. He goes, yeah, man, I learned to share. And I'm like, I understand, dude. And let me tell you, a lot of people don't like that around here, but let me tell you something. You're an awesome person. The fact that you're willing to give anything that's yours and share it with somebody is something a lot of people lack today. And then I like, he was like, thanks, man. And I was like, yeah. And I like gave him a handshake and then walked away. But I see him and I'm like, man, we're going to set this up for sure. And I'm willing to go. I'll go over there. I'll make it whatever things I have to do in my life just to be able to get his story and get his experience, because so many people need to understand that, like, you shouldn't have to be from another country. You shouldn't have to be experiencing something super, super bad in your life that impacts you and makes you so open to everyone. Everyone should just be born like that. But we're just a detriment to society when we choose to only care about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And like there are a lot of types of prejudices that we have in our society, and the most like prevalent and visible ones are like the racism and being against some certain group of society, etc. But there are a lot of different types of little and big prejudices that cripple us from giving better decisions on a daily basis. And we recognize it. Like, I personally recognize it a lot in myself, even though, like, you would think that as a being a person of Middle East, I would get a pass from prejudices, right? Because I probably get every type of prejudice possible in a Western society. But I, in myself, recognize them all the time. And I see what the damage that those prejudices do in your life. I'll tell you a little story that I have talked about recently. So it was 3 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago. I was in front of my door, and then I suddenly heard an intense crash, like poof. Like, I knew it was like a car crash, and from the sound of it, something bad happened. So I opened the door and I've dashed out, and I have seen the car. There was a Citroen who have gone into a BMW X5 from behind, and smoke everywhere. And I tried to look if somebody is seriously wounded, etc. There was a couple in front in the BMW, and a mom with a kid, with a 4-year-old girl, totally shocked. Like, everybody was frozen, but thankfully there was no like big injury or so. And my neighbor has run out, and we tried to help them out and get them something, and make sure that the kid is not so much traumatized, but of course the harm is done. And the lady in front of the car from the couple from BMW X5, super expensive car, brand new, like a white, very nice car. She got out and she started shouting at the lady, uh, at the mom who had the girl. And we were like, what a bitch. Like, she's coming out of her BMW, and there is the kid here, like, you can be at least a little bit of showing some sort of sympathy to the baby girl here, and just calm down. What is it? It is just a couple of €1,000 of damage that the insurance is going to pay. So just calm down, right? So, and the mom, with that shout, she broke and she started to cry, and she was like, yeah, because she is like 100% in fault, okay? So because she comes from behind, and but the story is like, she has like the baby girl behind, like, was throwing a tantrum, and she threw a toy, and because of that thing happening, she couldn't stop on time before a speed bumper, and she went in to the car, okay? And that's why the baby, the toddler, was also shocked, because she knew instinctively that it was like her fault or whatsoever.
I think
so you listen to this part of the story, and then you are saying that, like, those rich people, they don't understand anything, and they just, they don't have any respect for other people. And then like, we were talking about this with my neighbor, and at the same time, the other lady, who, like, the husband has come out, and they were hugging, etc. And then she broke down as well. I was like, what's up with you now? And she then started to tell her story. Apparently, her husband was fighting a stage 4 cancer, and he had only 3 months to live. And they have learned that like to this 3 months to between 3 and 4 months thing like yesterday, like the day before, the day before the accident has happened. And she goes immediately, takes a line of credit, and she buys the dream car of her husband. All right, so that the last days, because he has already always dreamt for that car, and she wanted that the last days he would spend in the car of his dreams. And they have bought the car today on the day of the accident, and they have had a nice lunch, and it was their first drive home that this happened. And with that crash, she thought that all of her life has come crashing down. Like she doesn't have right to anything, right? She cannot, she doesn't have
Well, she's acting in overwhelmness. A lot of people get overwhelmed and they act irrationally.
And she thinks in a way rightly, let's say, like she does something and she finally thinks that her husband is happy and the things maybe will turn around. I mean, she will keep his spirits high the last 3-4 months of his husband, and boom, a crash happens, everything falls apart. I mean, I noticed at that moment that like the prejudices that we put in our life are very, very hard to spot. And the hardest type are the ones that we close ourselves and we think that we know the best. I have not listened to the story of I have seen the little girl. I have not listened to the story of the BMW lady. And immediately I formed the prejudice that he is rich, she is rich, she is poor. So get on with it. I mean, don't be bitchy about one bumper broken down.
I think the best realization for people is to understand both sides of the story. Like I said, that's the whole reason I started this thing about experience and knowing. I'm open to all interpretations, and I try to fight the other side as well. Even if I have full belief of one side, it's all about getting both sides of the story. You know, anybody chooses, like, you understand that, just because that person's acting a way this now, there's two things that need to happen. You need to understand what's going on in their life, and they also need to realize that this problem is affecting them now, but might not affect them in the future. They have to realize that you have to work past it now that it's happened.
Exactly. And you know what the saddest thing for me is that if you look at the three parties, like the BMW, Citroën, and the people who are acting sort of like social judges whatsoever, like us, the people who have the most snob, like who are snobbing the others most, is not the BMW lady, is not the Citroën mom, it's us. Actually, we were the ones who had the biggest prejudices because we didn't listen to the stories that they are bringing through. We have thought that their anger, etc., is not justified because that they are rich or they are coming out of a BMW or so. And that moment changed my life. It is very, very difficult to spot this type of prejudice because I think that I know better than everybody because I have seen the accident and I'm an outsider, etc. But no, you know nothing, Jon Snow.
I think a lot of people, that main thing they should take away from this podcast is the fact that your life's mediator. Like you choose what really goes on how you take things and how you choose to either grow from things or let it hold you back. And I think more people need to be open-minded when it comes to stuff. And I want to give a minute here at the end, just to be able to let people know where to find your stuff, everything you're involved with, just so they can get some maybe information and just, first of all, a realism of some people that think, that just about drive and having a positive outlook on life, just changing the perspective too, because it's an amazing thing that very few people are able to do.
Yeah, indeed. I'm happy that if I can reach to the minds and hearts of one person, that means the world to me. My name and surname is very unique combination, Sidar Ok. So Sidar, and my surname is OK. And if they Google me, they will see my LinkedIn profile. And if they would like to find out my coaching, it is icoach.com. It's IQOACH.com. And they can sign up for my newsletter where I'm sharing stories of stories like this that I've just told, and try to make people help people to reach their goals in a shorter amount of times. So get in touch with me, like connect me on Twitter, Facebook. I'm open to everything. I'm not selling anything. So yeah, just looking for human connections that to pass the message out and help more people just like you.
And it's not Sidar OK. It's Sidar Oak, people, like the tree. His spirit is
Yes,
built just like the tree. That's how you're going to remember it. Thank you so much for
exactly.
being on my podcast, Sidar. It was awesome.
Thank you very much, Robbie. It was my pleasure. Have a great day.